a very, very high interest and hot topic of the, the current day and age, certainly as it impacts us as researchers and investigators. So my name is Carrie Sisk. If I haven't met you before, I am Assistant Director of the Professional Development Core with CTSI. And one of the programs that I certainly help to lead and direct is our FACS program, fostering advancement in clinical and translational science. And so we are really, really excited to host a number of series this fall semester, and we're kind of like at the midpoint of it. So if this is the first session that you're joining us and you are interested in others, please reach out or use the registration link that you used to get today's access Zoom link, and we will be happy to share others with you. We're already thinking ahead to the spring, so I've been really high on making sure to mention to everyone that I talk to that if there are other topics and themes that you think that you would like some more professional development on, then I'm always happy and interested in taking those recommendations. So with that being said, though, I would love to get started and introduce our two speakers today. First, we have Ashley Purvis. Ashley is the Student Success and Instructional Library at WVU with a focus on the health sciences. She's been part of the WVU Library since March of 2023 and is currently in the Medical Library Association Research Training Institute Fellowship Program, where she's completing an analysis project on the effectiveness of library instruction on student outcomes. Secondly, we have Tara Rogerson. Tara is the head of the Research Support and Engagement Unit at WVU Libraries. She's been with the library since 2022 and previously supported the Davis College at WVU. In her new role, Tara also provides assistance with grant applications. So I think two very important people for all of you to probably get to know anyway. So make sure you write down their name, and I'm sure we can share email addresses as a contact. But with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley and Tara. Thank you, ladies, for presenting on this very hot topic, interesting theme and session for today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your introduction. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing. Let me know if there's any issues and I will take care of them. Today, Tara and I are going to be talking about using AI responsibly and just kind of going over some general facts, histories, giving some ideas on how to use it responsibly. So let's see here. This is us being your librarians for the day. I'm the Student Success and Instruction Librarian, and I'll let Tara introduce herself if she wants to.
Hello, it's just me again. I'm the head of research support and engagement. So happy to see you all here today. So thank you.
All right. Also, if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to either try to raise your hand. Maybe one of us will catch it, or you can just interrupt me because I am not the best with catching questions in chat. So today we're going to go over how AI works, why use AI, some considerations for when you do use it, tips for using it, some AI tool info, and then we do not have the general library information. I just always add that and then sometimes forget to take it out. So a brief history of AI. So back kind of in the 1950s, this term artificial intelligence kind of starts going. It basically just means it's human intelligence exhibited by machines, or kind of getting machines to start talking, start working with things. And then it kind of doesn't really expand. It slowly grows until the 80s when it becomes learning machines. AI systems begin to learn from historical data, and then it kind of speeds up again into more deep learning, which is what the 2010s was. More machine machine language models that can mimic human brain function. So we kind of start to see the beginning of what we have today, which is the generative AI, deep learning modules, kind of the foundation that allows people to create original content from what they can put into AI. So it's a very brief overview. If you want to know more, there's tons and tons of books and research on AI, but it's just keeping it pretty general for our time today. So how does AI learn? It learns through machine learning. So there's two kind of different ways that it learns, through subcategories and functions. So we have supervised, which is kind of where it's trained with labeled data. It's kind of more set over time. It's more accurate data, trying to kind of be more rigorous, more looked at. Then there's the unsupervised, which is programs that look for patterns, and it's unlabeled. So it's kind of learns more on its own. And then we have our reinforced, which is trained through trial and error. And then it kind of works with the reward system to figure out which is the best action to take. And then we have our functions in machine learning, which are descriptive, which is the data that, again, explains what happened, the predictive, which kind of uses data to predict what will happen, and then prescriptive, which uses data to suggest what is going to happen next. So kind of does before, during, and after, if you think about it like that. And then what makes it work? Basically, neural networks, there's different layers. So we have the artificial, kind of the most outer layer. And then we move to our machine learning, which is more of the inner layer. And then we go to our deep learning again. And then inside of that is where you see those neural networks. And that's where it has kind of the convolutional neural networks, the general adversarial networks, and the transformers. I personally still am not don't understand the most about the neural networks parts of AI, but again, this is just a general overview to kind of get you the background information of how it works. So then what makes it work? So it kind of goes through this training architecture. So you have, the neural networks plus the data, and that's kind of the foundation of your large language models and your the computational vision. And then so when you look in your large language models and then it kind of tags things, you get the data and then it funnels it back out. That data is then trained through the large language model. So it kind of works almost like in a flow state constantly. So it puts out and then it puts in as you're going. And then there's different types of AI. So there's generative AI versus traditional. So it really kind of depends on what you're looking to do with your AI. And that will kind of let you know what type of AI you're looking at. So generative AI will create images, text, data sets, analyze text, and make predictions. So it can do pretty much all the things you're looking to do with AI, but traditional AI focuses more on text analysis and making predictions. It does not create images, does not create text, or create the data sets for you. So that's why sometimes if you're doing things, you're like, why can't I get this work? It's because it just depends on the type of AI you're using. And then how does generative AI work? It's very much in this kind of circle flow state as where we get our training phase, when we get the user interaction from the training phase, and then it synthesizes that data, it outputs the data, gives you the result, and then again, it trains once again on those results that are output. So it moves in a circle, you use it, it works, then again, it flows out again. So it's very much a relational interaction. And then I just want to give you a breakdown. Again, this is, everyone, ChatGPT is the big one that everyone seems to really use, or at least students. So this is more of a breakdown of what it looks like when you're using ChatGPT. So you have your type, it's generative AI. You have your purpose, which is to create human-like text, prompt, responses, and content. And then your output is the original text generation. whether it be your essays, reports, things like that. Sometimes people use it to plan their vacation, so recommendations, things like that. And then use, some people use it to write your entire research paper from a prompt. Some people just use it to make, I want to make these things for dinner. So then they create a grocery list from it. It really depends on how you're using it. And where does it come from? It comes from everywhere. So it comes from not just the user data, but crawling the web, users, Wikipedia, the Corpora, and Reddit. Reddit's a really big one, which is also kind of scary because it can give really mixed results because, as we know, Reddit is really just crowdsourcing information that doesn't always have to be the most correct. So I'm going to let Tara take it from here and move on to why.
Great, thanks, Ashley. And as I said, thanks everybody for coming today. I'm going to talk about ways to use AI, and I just want to take a moment to say here that up front that neither Ashley and I nor I are AI experts. I don't know who could be called an AI expert at this point. Maybe the person in charge of AI. But I just want to say that this presentation is not exhaustive in its breadth and depth of AI history or tools. But we're all kind of trying to learn on the fly what's best for our particular fields of study. And so that's what we've kind of tried to wrangle and harness here today. Ashley, next slide, please. So, what does AI look like in the medical field? Well, specifically, there are some ways AI can be particularly helpful. For instance, generative AI is best at automating some tasks. That's either from generating automatic appointment reminders to healthcare coding in medical records. So I think some people in this field notably are using Note GPT to turn scholarly articles into podcasts that they can listen to while driving or doing other things, or just doing another task. So AI tends to make some of these things
I'm double dipping. I'm in a meeting.
a little bit easier. And so anyway, but you do want to know the risks and limitations of the tools you want to use, and not all tools function the same way, right? Some tools are really good at tracking down information. I know one in particular called Chat EHR can search through someone's medical records. I can imagine that's pretty useful for practitioners. AI can aid in accessibility. It can create text for screen readers, etc. It can also help with medical research. It's really good at assisting people in concept mapping and brainstorming, providing feedback on your research questions. It can create PICO questions. It can rephrase thoughts, concepts, spelling, translations, and break down topics. So it can function it's really helpful in that kind of pre-research phase. It can also summarize really complicated scholarly articles. I know Cite AI is kind of one of the tools that does this kind of effectively. So, as we know, as researchers, literature reviews are very important. So having a tool to kind of summarize those articles can be really, really helpful and a big time saver. Next slide. And then, however, unfortunately, right, sometimes there are some ethical and, environmental considerations to think about when using AI. AI is watching you. It is unlike your individual cookies that kind of capture your search history, your internet search history. AI really collects everything, including uploads, downloads, banking and health data, all of that stuff. So you do want to be careful how you're using it, and what tools you're using. You may also may unintentionally be self-plagiarizing or releasing your work before it's ready if you are working in one of these AI tools with your research. It then has your research, right? So somebody else who might be doing a similar thing might get a piece of your research in whatever it spit out to this person. So you want to make sure that just, you know, take a moment. And then you want to think about publishers sign contracts with companies like Microsoft to access data from scholarly journals to improve AI tools. So when you publish with them, sometimes you want to look at your publishing contract because they can be using your work to make AI smarter. So you're essentially kind of giving away your work a second time for free. And so sometimes people don't like that. The results are often biased and because of the models, because of the information that they're combing, right? And then copyright concerns when loading articles into AI to summarize, right? If people are constantly loading other people's articles, that's somebody's work that is then being used to write somebody else's work. So it's kind of that constant cycle. So those are up to you, right? People are using it anyway in these ways. So it's kind of personal responsibility and what you value most. And of course, there are the environmental concerns. It uses a ton of water to generate even the smallest response. You can read these kind of statistics here. It's a lot of carbon dioxide, a lot of electricity, and they say that these things will become, as it learns quicker, that these things will be less of a concern. But they're kind of nobody has a real time frame on when these things will use less uh, natural resources. So next slide, please. Okay, so these are just some more things to be aware of, and I kind of touched on these in the ethical considerations. Publishers and AI companies work together. Academic publishers work with AI companies to use your work as data to train AI. So again, you're kind of giving them free work while they're getting paid, right? to give their work to these AI companies. Again, it happens all the time and people don't know about it, but it's not wonderful. So you have to consider that. And then many publishers are silent, right? Many publishers have neglected to tell their authors that their work has been sold to AI companies. I'm sure that this is a lot of them, and of course, except for Cambridge University. So anyway, how do we can kind of keep up with these things by staying up to date on AI trends. And then also read your author agreements to check for any AI clauses before signing. And you can add one, right? If you have that kind of power so that your work isn't being used to train AI, at least not for free. All right, next slide, please. And then these are some concepts to think about when using AI. It's just responsible AI use. I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is a pretty graph and kind of outlines how we should be thinking about what AI tools we choose to use and how we choose to use them. So next slide. And again, here are some further concerns when using AI. It is not perfect. It does it does generate ghost citations or hallucinate. While it's getting better at using real citations, AI tends to generate citations that cannot be found anywhere else. Every librarian knows another librarian who has tried to chase down a ghost citation that doesn't exist. It has fooled, very professors who have published a ton of information. They have gotten false citations before and kind of looked them up. It's happening everywhere. So it's a big concern about using AI. It's also, the results are not reproducible. Like searching Google, you will never get the same results twice if you ask ChatGPT something. So you want your searches to give the same results each time. And of course, this is especially important in systematic review projects. And then, of course, AI has bias. It can replicate bias and stereotypes that are already found on the internet because that's part of the information that it's combing. So, and anybody who's been on the internet knows that that is a scary, scary place. So if you can imagine what kind of stereotypes are being fed into AI. So, and then AI is a cause of misinformation, including about health. So those are some concerns. And if you want to do the next slide, and we're going to go into kind of more of these considerations about publishing in AI. So paper mills, with the increase in AI, there's also an increase in data integrity issues. Papers are unreliable and published at a rapid pace. We're seeing this even starting in high school, right? Parents are trying to get their children into really good schools. So they're going to these people who say that they can get their these organizations who say that they can publish their paper in open access journals, and then they're just kind of they're just these unreliable journal and predatory journals, right? And but the student still has this still has a line on their college application. So they're really dangerous, and they do continue to proliferate. Data leakage. AI needs data to function, like large language models like ChatGPT that leaves your unpublished data vulnerable to leakage before publication date. So that's kind of what we talked about before. There are all kinds of copyright headaches, as we discussed with AI. Then there are also challenges you may not even have thought about. There are people that misuse AI to hack citations for increased credit, artificially inflating impact and visibility of their research papers. So you always want to consider the quality of the paper you are publishing in, quality of the journal you're publishing in. A lower citation count in a reputable journal is worth more weight. If your data is compromised in any way, your paper will be retracted. So you really want to make sure you're not using data pulled from AI. You might not be able to receive credit for that work, and then there are severe professional implications of using AI. And I think we've been seeing increased citations of AI, right, are just a note that says AI was used to do this in my research, right? And it could be taking notes or summarizing literature, scholarly articles. So that is becoming more and more common, and I think really helpful as we move forward to really define what we're using AI for in the research process. Next slide. All right, and these are some more tips. You don't have to use AI in your work. If you're comfortable using it, that's great. If not, great. We have a lot of people in the library who are very anti-AI. They are staunch, never going to use it. That might be fine. Who knows? But there are risks and limitations to the tools you use, and you should be aware of those. These can include paywalls, copyright, legal implications, and more. AI tools transform quickly, and what you might know today may be gone tomorrow. I know there was a figure. I mean, there are hundreds of these AI tools now, right? So something that's not something that might not be well known might disappear tomorrow. So it's, we're in the wild, wild west right now. So we're all just seeing how this will play out. But anyway, check with your publisher, research mentor, etc. when using AI. As I mentioned, you want to cite AI when you use it in your writing and research. You can use a program to track your citations to make sure they are correct and accurate. Really learn the tool before you use it. I think that's a really good thing, that AI wants you to think it's like easier to use than it is. So but I think if we take a second and really understand how it works, understand how to use it, it really goes a long way. And then when you're asking AI questions, you do want to be smart with your prompts, be succinct, intentional, and direct. Next slide. And then this is some ways to use AI in the writing process. So early in the writing process, AI is really good at generating ideas, generating research questions, things like that, and narrowing the scope of a particular topic. In the research stage, AI there is really good for finding sources, using those tools to summarize those sources, finding connections, formatting references, and creating outlines to organize your thoughts and research. And then further into the process, if you ask it good questions, it can sometimes critically think, okay. You can use it for feedback, though you should avoid ChatGPT for this. As we said, it it could leak your research if that's what you're talking to it about. And then it can also be great when you are stuck on transitions, headers, and titles for your research. And then, of course, remember to cite your AI use. So I will turn it back over to Ashley, and thank you all very much. That's some just very broad ways to use AI and some considerations about run ethically using it. So thanks.
Yeah. So, okay. So, the AMA came out with some principles for AI use in medicine a couple years ago, and I don't want to read all of this out, but really they're just kind of some concerns that they have, mainly making sure that you're using it, trying to look out for your bias, make sure that you are mitigating any of that, making sure it doesn't violate any privacy, security, HIPAA, making sure that it also isn't making you liable for materials. If you're using ChatGPT and you end up giving bad patient advice, you could be liable for that. So keep that in mind. So really, this is just to kind of make sure that you are using it in a way that is ethically, medically responsible. So again, using it in healthcare, you want to make sure that you avoid some of the pitfalls. AI data sets are very limited and it can be really expensive to upkeep. And again, the inherited bias also comes into play. A lot of these data sets are created by people, that may not have, a diverse background. So they may end up, not thinking about every population that you have when you are, going and creating your data, those data sets. And then make sure that you're being inclusive and you're mitigating those biases. Make sure that you're following or using an AI tool that uses inclusive design and works to actively stop their bias within their data sets and algorithms. And then your stakeholder engagement as well. Make sure that your patients and collaborators are aware that you're using AI and how that can directly impact them as well. Some patients may not be comfortable with using AI or your collaborators, so that's something to keep in mind, especially if you're working on a larger project that can come back and, to bite if you're not being actively upfront about that. And then again, your liability, if you're using AI to help you make decisions at the point of care, that AI can, if it performs poorly, it can lead to provider lawsuits, which can result in discriminatory harm to patients. So you want to make sure that if you are, using AI, you're not using it, to really make those clinical decisions. So now we've kind of gone over some of that. One of the librarians at the University of New Mexico has created a really helpful kind of framework for using AI. And it's an acronym in CLEAR because librarians love acronyms. So this framework is kind of what I use and suggest and kind of guide whenever I have students that are like, I want to use AI. So you want to make sure that you're concise. You really want to focus on your keywords and you want to keep it brief and to the point. At the same time, you want it to flow logically, so make it structured and coherent. Follow a logical flow and the order of your ideas. And along with being concise and logical, keep it explicit. make sure you're asking for clear output specifications. Um, and doing so can really help create the produce the most useful answer to you, because this will also kind of help make sure that you're using AI more responsibly by asking less prompts. So you're not asking just one generic question, you're kind of building on that. So you're asking it more direct. And then once you kind of get those three done and you get your answer back, you can be more adaptive. You can flex, be more flexible with it, customize it a little more, emphasize the importance of if you're looking for, more analyzation, if you're looking for refining or revising of prompts, based on the output that you're getting, you can go ahead and kind of adapt that after you get through the first three steps. And then once you've done that, the last step is reflect. And what this means is you can reflect right away or you can come back to it, but it really just means that before you go ahead and type in that maybe adaptive response, you want to make sure that you are thinking critically, making sure that you're going ahead and making sure that you are putting out there the most complete answer or question that you can. Okay, so we have some recommended tools for everyone to use that we found kind of just based on looking through different tools that can be helpful that I've kind of played with or Tara's played with, or we've had some other librarians recommend. So there's Perplexity. This one is good for answering complex questions. And it provides mostly reliable answers. Again, it's one of those that is, there's always a pay to play aspect of it, but sometimes you can use different ones. Duck AI is one that allows for more privacy. It doesn't really do a ton of data tracking. So if you're looking for kind of more privacy when you are doing these searches, Duck AI is really helpful for that. And then there's Copilot. So again, this one is more task oriented. So if you're really into kind of taking full advantage of using Outlook or any of those tools, this is going to be your most helpful part. And then there's Elicit. This one provides more in-depth analysis. It doesn't really do surface level questions. It is a paid tier. But it does search papers that are in the semantic scholar corpus, and papers that you upload remain private to you. So that way there, if you are like, I want to summarize these papers, but I'm concerned that it might end up leaking somewhere or being used to train other data models, you use this product and it'll just kind of stay there with you and kind of help summarize and figure out what type of population you're looking at with the study, things like that. And we have Claude, which uses publicly available information from the internet and licensed data sets. It's really good for the developmental stages of research and brainstorming and data analysis. So if you're kind of like, I want to play around with some more data, data sets, things like that using AI, this would be the one that I would use. They've been also airing really weird commercials on Hulu if you haven't seen them. So this is that product that they keep advertising if you've seen those weird ones. There's also some really helpful tools that will help you visualize your research. So I use a couple of these just in general because they not only help visualize, but in the process, they help you to kind of find more articles that are relevant to what you are looking for based on like what article you currently put into that database, or not database, but into that kind of visualizer. So there's Litmaps, Keenest, Consensus, Research Rabbit, Insightful, and Notebook LM. I only use Research Rabbit and Insightful, but they are free. So I love a free product. And then the other ones have paid tiered models. Oh yeah, and then Carrie just dropped the handout. So there are more about these and they kind of go over in more detail, kind of how they function and things like that. Notebook LM is really popular here at WVU in internal medicine. They would love it a lot based on my conversations with them. So I recommend that one based on their help. So we have quite a bit of time if you want to have any questions. Again, it's really just about kind of making sure that you're, being responsible, making sure that when you are using AI, that you're using it in a clear way, just kind of counteracting some of that environmental harm, really. But our emails are here listed if you have any questions. And yeah, if you have any, just go ahead and let us know. We're happy to answer.